one, and you're live.
Thank you. Welcome to the board meeting of the Tahoe Truckee Unified School District. Today is November 17th, 2021. Will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The board did meet in closed session this evening. We took no reportable action in closed session. Thanks, Lupita. Agenda. Superintendent Geisels, do we have any changes to this evening's agenda?
Yes, we do, President Zurich. We would like to move item number 9.0 and item number 13.0 to the first in line before public comment.
Okie dokie. Thank you. Would anyone like to move approving the agenda with the proposed modifications?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the proposed modifications.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Great. So if you will proceed with recognition then, Superintendent Geisels?
Yes, thank you very much. So what I would like to do is recognize an individual that is very, very involved in our students' world, and she is Miss Bobby Luster, who's our branch manager of the Truckee Library. And Bobby, I just want to be able to say a few things about what you've done, and we want to recognize your contributions to our students in our district. You piloted the Student Success Library Card for 2 of our high schools in 18 and 19. When COVID hit in 2020, you extended the Student Success Cards to all students, no matter what county they lived in. That was such a big help for our students to get books. You also provided digital access to homework help, movies, music, and books during COVID. And you also provided library days for the Sells School and for Donner Trail. You also assisted El Dorado County and Placer County libraries in setting up MOUs in order to provide student success cards also. So over and over, you've been such a pivotal part in our student success and our partnership with the library. So we wanted to acknowledge that and give you this certificate that says, to Bobby Luster, for decades of service to the students in our community and ensuring the Success Library Card program was a reality for our students. So I wanted to give
Thank you, Superintendent Geisels and the board. I really appreciate you recognizing me. On behalf of the whole staff of the Truckee Library, we appreciate the recognition. We have really focused on partnerships in the community, and we're so proud to have TTUSD as a partner. And we look forward to continuing to serve the community, not just the students, but everybody in the community, because the library is for everyone. So thank you again for the recognition, and we hope to be working with the school district and the community a lot more closely. Thanks.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you. Okay, and then next we will move on to the consent agenda. Does staff have any changes to the consent?
No, we don't, President Zurich.
Any board members pull any items from the consent agenda? Would someone like to move approval of the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Great. Okay, so now we will go back to public comment. So a couple of things prior to public comment. First of all, I'm going to make a couple of I want to talk about a couple things, and I'll talk about our process for public comment and how we do that here at TTUSD. So I kind of wanted to address what I'm perceiving as some misinformation that may be going around on social media or wherever. We all love social media. So back on on August 11, 2021, the State Department of Health required us as school districts to have our employees either vaccinated or tested for COVID. So there seems to be some impression that we're forcing employees to be vaccinated, but that's just not the case. We have the preponderance of our folks who have complied with that, and we really appreciate that. And I personally appreciate Margie has stepped up and said, I don't agree with doing that. That is certainly her opportunity to do that, but there's always consequences to doing those, to making choices. We all know that. We teach our kids that there's consequences at times. And so we as a district are following those, the rules that the State Department of Health have established for us. The other fear I hear out there is the vaccine mandate for kids. And right now we have some proposals from the governor. They're not they haven't been promulgated yet through the process. What we hear right now is that there will be exemptions for personal choice, for religious reasons, and for medical reasons. And that's great. I hear a lot of fear that those exemptions will go away. We don't know that yet. If they do, we'll deal with it. Right now, we as a board are operating under the premise that those exemptions will be available. To me, that'll look a lot like what school looks like today. Although there will be kids 5 to 12 who get vaccinated because their parents will choose to get them vaccinated. But other folks will take advantage of a personal exemption. So I understand there's some concern that that'll change, but as best we know today, that's what's proposed by the state. So I just kind of wanted to be clear about those concerns and where we think we're at. I felt really sad to have to put the rules of civility on the chairs here today. That was adopted by this community about 15 years ago when people weren't being very nice to each other. And honestly, it feels like we're right back there, where people aren't being very nice to us. And specifically, a lot of folks were not very nice to us as a board. And this is a volunteer position that we took, that we've spent thousands of hours at. And I'm very proud of what we've done as a school district. And I am very proud of our schools and our children and the things that our children have accomplished from going through these amazing schools. So to have some of you threaten us and to have some of you tell us to resign and that you have elected us, actually nobody else stepped up to do this volunteer job except the 5 of us. And we are only here for one reason. We're here because of kids. That's all we care about, is the kids. And we have talked about that for the last 11 years. A lot of folks haven't paid attention to that, but that is our only focus, is our kids. And what we strive to do up here is always the best thing for the kids. And sometimes that might not feel like the best thing for adults, but it is the best thing for kids. That is our goal. And that has been our laser focus. And I am very proud of that. And I'm your neighbor. I'm friends with your friends. I'm not some automat who can say, you don't want to co-parent with me. Really? Can't we be kind to each other? I have talked about kindness up here on this dais since COVID started. Kindness. What are we modeling for our children? Are we modeling kindness? We're going to listen to everything you have to say. We will listen to the best of our ability, except when you attack us personally, it gets harder. So, just kind of some thoughts related to this as we go into this process. Treat everybody else like you want to be treated. It seems like a very simple thing to do. Then I want to address something else that happened last Tuesday night when we had this meeting. We have on camera 2, let's see, how can I care? I was going to say young men, but that's too honorific. 2 young males who went into the men's room and vandalized it during this meeting. So that was part of this group. And we have them on camera, and we will pursue with the Truckee PD, figuring out who they are. But is that the kind of behavior that we want going on in our schools? Do we want vandals vandalizing the public property that you've all paid for? And shouldn't they be ashamed of themselves? And shouldn't we, as parents, be careful what we're modeling to not allow that kind of behavior to be okay? They were filming themselves, they were showing themselves a film and laughing. So let's just think about how we treat each other. That's all I'm asking. We'd love to hear what you have to say to us. We will listen to what you have to say to us. But let's treat each other with kindness and respect when we do that. Okay, enough of that. The way we operate in these school boards, or these school board meetings, is we will allow 30 minutes of public comment. Each commenter has up to 3 minutes to speak to us. And I've got cards here. We just call the names at random. If you'd please come up here to the microphone. Joan will help with the microphone going on and off. We will cut you off at 3 minutes because we want to give as many people the opportunity to speak as possible, right? So the other thing I'm going to ask you all is, if you're in here and there's some folks in the big gym, if you talk and if you would please rotate out to let folks participate. You know, we're still socially distanced. We wish we could pack more people in the room. We're in this room because our AV equipment is in here and a lot of folks watch us at home. And so we certainly didn't want to not facilitate that happening. So does that make sense? This is also not meant to be an interactive time public comment, but rather we listen to you. The board may have some comments at the end of the process. Oh, one thing I forgot. We will also open public comment at the end of our meeting. So we'll go through the first 30 minutes. If there's still people who want to talk, we'll go and do the board's business tonight, do the work that we need to do here, and then we will reopen public comment at the end of the meeting. And keep that open until folks are done talking. So hopefully that makes sense. And let's see, the first person I have here to speak, and hopefully she's in the room, I'm sorry. So, and then if somebody would note that it's 5:45, so we'll go till 6:15 for the 30 minutes. Ann Callis. And then next will be Lonnie Sorter. So if you guys can line up, that way, if you do that one back there, please. If you guys can line up, that way we can give as many people the opportunity to talk right now as possible.
Thanks. I'm here actually to address the district's new volunteer application.
Wait, we can't hear you.
Okay, there.
Better? Hi. There you go. Got it? Great, thanks. Okay, thanks. I'm here to address the district's new volunteer application requirements, and I've got a letter from the Kings Beach PTO that I wanted to share. On behalf of the KBE Parent-Teacher Association, PACE, we'd like to express our concerns about the district's newly instated volunteer application process. We understand TTUSD's need to follow the state guidelines and to protect school communities. However, the district's choice to adhere to the strictest level of volunteer application process is proving to be difficult, expensive, and laborious for parents. PACE is extremely concerned that cost, time, constraints, and fear will stop many of our parents from volunteering. This would be a loss to our entire community at a time when students and staff need parent volunteers more than ever. The new application process is difficult to navigate for many, especially language learners and socioeconomically disadvantaged families. There are forms to fill out, appointments to make, and bills to pay. Many of our parents work sometimes multiple jobs. It's difficult to find free time to get live scan tests done, as well as TB appointments, etc. Even for our most resourced and motivated volunteers, it takes hours and up to $160 in fees to complete the process. This is a phenomenal amount of money for many of our families, of whom 42% are on free and reduced lunch. While we understand TTUSD's need to adhere to state law, we're asking for your help in maintaining equal access to the classroom for all parents, since these requirements will disproportionately affect some school sites. We have found other school districts throughout the state that have more nuanced volunteer requirements, including the San Ramon Valley District, which has created a 3-level system with less stringent requirements for classroom aides and other on-campus volunteers, and with higher levels of screening for those who are overnight chaperones or field trip drivers. Similarly, the San Juan School District only requires volunteers to be fingerprinted if they work with students away from staff. They don't appear to require TB tests at all. PACE is happy to provide other examples of what districts are doing to follow state guidelines, since many of them are choosing a tiered volunteer process depending on the level of volunteer engagement. We hope that some of the requirements can be revised to mirror those in other districts. PACE believes it's a matter of equity, community, and inclusivity. We hope that you'll be willing to adjust the policy in order to include all members of our community so they can serve all of our students. We'd also like to cordially invite you to the next PACE meeting on December 7th. This is signed from the PACE board, several PACE volunteers. We'd love to see this topic on future board agendas if possible, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anne. The next speaker is Lonnie Sorter, and then after Lonnie will be Renee McManus. Thank you. Okay. Sorry if I butcher your name. It happens to me all the time.
Hi, my name is Lonnie Sorter, and I spoke to you all last week at the board meeting in support of Margie C. Hutter, a teacher in this district for 28 plus years. If you recall, you were presented with a roadmap on how to navigate the false emergency mandates directed by Governor Newsom. I'm here again tonight because we still have work to do. At last week's meeting, I presented 2 school districts that passed resolutions to not comply with the vaccine, testing, and masking mandates for staff and students. As of today, that number has grown to more than 14 districts. In 1 week, the list has grown significantly. Many of these district resolutions provided outlines as the reasons why their district opposed and requested that the governor not require the vaccine for both students and staff. These districts include Lucerne Valley, Western Placer, Durham, Capistrano, Thermalito Union, Palmero Union, Biggs, Chino Valley, Stanislaus County, University Prep, and Ripon Unified School District. Apple Valley Unified School District also adopted a resolution. However, it contains stronger language declaring that their district will not implement a vaccine requirement if one is imposed by state and local health officers. These resolutions were all drafted using various methods. Superintendent Bohannon at Durham Unified indicated that he drafted their resolution with the help of the county information officer, and a copy was sent to all districts within Butte County. Western Placer Unified District utilized the district's legal counsel to support Superintendent Callahan in developing their resolution. Others were simply drafted by board members, as was the case with Capistrano. Tonight, I formally request that TTUSD use these districts' examples and draft its own resolution. I also request that this be placed on as an action item on the next scheduled meeting agenda. By drafting a similar resolution, TTUSD would be taking a formal stance against vaccine mandate. This would send a strong message to the governor, parents, and the surrounding schools in our community. Our lawmakers need to be aware that we stand in solidarity with a growing number of districts who acknowledge that enforcement would be severely detrimental to schools, students, and staff. Approving a resolution would also allow staff and parents to breathe a little easier knowing that TTUSD values and supports individual choice for all families. This would be a great first step in publicly communicating the district's stance on supporting the personal choice of all parents and staff. It is my hope that you will have the courage to take this first step. And remember, you're not alone. We are all here to help you. We'll support you in these efforts. We'll come alongside you. We will help you draft this. We will help you submit, and we will fight the good fight with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Renee McManus, and then Amber Stockholm. Amber Stockholm.
Thank you. My name is Renee McMains, and I am a teacher in this district. I appreciate being able to follow the last speaker because I stand in solidarity with those who approach this issue, understanding that we have decades of scientific data to support that vaccinations work in protecting our society. As a teacher, there are times when I teach my students that we do sacrifice or pause our personal freedoms for the greater good. And so I would hope that the board and those who are here tonight recognize that there are those of us who appreciate your personal freedoms, and yet what we're aiming for is to educate our students that society functions because we look out for each other, based on science. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Amber Stockholm, and then Tanya Sorter.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Amber Stockham, and I have first and third graders at Sells, with the most severe restrictions of any school in the district. Last week, I heard about Margie and realized that it's so much bigger than my personal experiences of forced outdoor masking and denied access to campus for unvaccinated parents.
My kids had COVID last month, getting it from a masked classmate. And while I know everyone has a different experience, it was so quick and so mild. The hardest part for me was watching each of them emotionally respond to the fact that they had it. Ms. Levac, I'm sure you understand this as you have training in social, emotional, and cognitive development. On top of other variables, with their continuous class quarantines, they had missed 50% of the school year. Tell me that is what's best for kids. And Ms. Zurich and Ms. Driller, you say that kids are our most precious assets and our most valuable resources, yet you're asking them to take on these burdens that are not developmentally appropriate. In speaking with the school nurse, she said my kids are clear for 90 days. No tests, no quarantines necessary. The district and CDC have clearly accepted 90 days worth of immunity, so why not accept them indefinitely for our children, teachers, and staff? There was a request made to the CDC on September 2nd requesting documented cases of an individual who never received a vaccine, was infected once, recovered, and then later became infected again, then transmitted COVID to another person when reinfected. It took the CDC more than 2 months to respond. A search of our records failed to reveal any documents pertaining to your request. So the CDC has admitted there is zero evidence of someone with natural immunity spreading COVID post-recovery. Please tell me why antibody testing is not accepted for our school community. The evidence is growing by the day that says natural antibodies are far superior. Additionally, the CDC recently revealed that an estimated 147 million people in this country, and likely much higher, have natural immunity. Lastly, a September study in the peer-reviewed European Journal of Epidemiology found no discernible relationship between the percentage of population fully vaccinated and new COVID cases. In fact, the study found the most fully vaccinated nations had the highest number of new cases, including the most vaccinated counties in the United States. I ask you all, what is keeping you from creating your own policies as the growing list of other districts have? Tonight, I'm requesting acknowledgement of natural immunity, personal choice for our families and staff for masking and vaccinations, and an end to these mandates. I'm ready for authentic action and for all of you to back up your bios and truly do what's best for our children. Our community has empowered you to advocate for the entirety of this community, and you have the authority to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Tanya Sorter. Tanya Sorter?
Yeah, so I'm getting up to speak because I went over 3 minutes on what I needed to say, and then Tanya...
No, we're not giving away minutes. So is Tanya Sorter... Is Tanya Sorter going to come up and speak now?
It's not going to make any sense.
Is Tanya Sorter going to speak now?
Can you please be a little bit more reasonable?
No. I'm sorry, we have the same rules for everybody. We have the same rules for everybody, and we're going to run it with the same rules for everyone. So is Tanya Sorter going to speak? Thank you. Tanya, you're up next.
It's Tana, by the way.
Oh, it's Tana, sorry.
So this goes along with Margie's, but I'll just wing it. So this is from her statement. Think back to where you were and what you were doing in 1993. She was teaching within the walls of Truckee High School. You guys hired her as a teacher, but it goes much deeper. She touches lives. In return, her students touch hers in many enduring ways. By Jones Zapatini, authority on October 26th, she was pulled out of her first period class and later told that she was insubordinate and a detriment to her students, fellow staff, and the community for not COVID testing. She has, or had, 85 students whose learning was compromised daily by forcing her to go to remote learning and having countless subs in her class. That definitely can't be good for the students. You are proceeding with termination of her employment, firing her for not being able to participate in illogical, outdated mandates disguised as laws, and upholding her sincerely religious beliefs. I believe that she submitted a religious exemption and it was never acknowledged. That is a really sad thing. Each of you state that your main focus is the students. Is that right? Yes, it is. That all your decisions are based on what's best for the students. And that is, and this is what the parents and Margie are saying is best. Acknowledge her religious exemption. She had COVID. She's immune and has a God-given body, a body that has the God-given immunity to this virus. It would be great if you would get the unvaccinated list out and write a religious exemption next to her name. Margie wants nothing more than to be back in her classroom and to work with her students. She is good at what she does, and she's full of heart. I've been in classrooms in this school district, and I can tell you there's a lot of teachers that are not like that here. Also, it has come to light that there are employees in the district office that are unvaccinated that are not being required to test. And this brings up a good point. In light of this new information, how can the school board terminate Margie, turn a blind eye to other employees? Do your rules apply to everyone, or is Margie being singled out for other reasons, such as being the advisor to the Christian Crossroads Club? And how many students have gone to the hospital because of her? She was in her classroom from August until November.
That's the end of your 3 minutes. So Tracy, I'm sorry I didn't call you, but you're up now. And then Mike Levac.
Last week, I stated that first of all, I just want to say, I appreciate very much that what you said, Kim, and that we want to be kind, and I think most of us are kind-hearted. We really want the best for the kids. We want the best for this community. But ignoring a religious exemption is violating the highest protection of the law. The religious exemptions, religious rights are upheld by, and I'll read some of the laws, but you chose last week to begin termination of Margie Seehutter, and doing so, Galen, Carmen, Kim, Diana, Chris, and Kirsten, that decision that you were supposed to make public, but you have not made public. It was supposed to be after the closed session, and you would not make that comment, which it doesn't show transparency. You stated that you would show transparency, so we would like that respect back to the public. We chose to terminate her, and that is in contempt of California state and federal laws. The laws protecting against discrimination that have been violated are as follows. Title VII states that unlawful employment, it's unlawful, an unlawful employment practice to discriminate based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. So you are discriminating based upon her religious beliefs, and she has submitted that. I think everybody knows the First Amendment, which says First Amendment of the United States of America, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution says the right of the people to be secure in their persons shall not be violated. And then in California codes that are being violated, Governor Newsom, I understand that you've been told by the health department that you have to enforce these laws, but they're not laws. Governor Newsom made a 45-day executive order And he had 60 days to renew that. He has never renewed it. He states, and those who believe the media and those who believe what he states are being misled because it is not a law, and the health departments are not legally allowed to make mandates, which is why all of those districts that Lonnie spoke of have been able to not believe or not listen to the mandate, just ignore it, and to say that we will not force our kids to be vaccinated. They can choose to be vaccinated, and the same with the masking. They can choose to be masked. California Government Code 37100 says a legislative body, which is the governor or you, may pass ordinances not in conflict with the Constitution and the laws of the state of the United States, the state of California, United States.
Tracy,
So
you have 5 seconds.
okay, that clearly you are violating those laws in California and the state for religious exemptions.
Thank you. So Mike Levac, and then Beth Curtis.
Thank you. My name is Mike Levac. I'm here as a parent. I have 2 children who, as of this year, will have spent 26 cumulative years in our Truckee schools, and they've had a fantastic experience, and I want to thank you all for that. I want to especially recognize the board for the great work you did with the capital campaign that really set our schools in a great spot for our students and our teachers to have a good place to learn. I want to thank you for developing outstanding curriculum, which puts our kids on an even footing with anybody as they start their careers and apply to colleges. I want to thank you for your good negotiations with the staff and teachers of the TTUSD and for your pursuit of financial accountability and prudent financial measures to keep our district viable. And finally, I want to thank you for maybe the most important thing that you seek to do, which is not within your control, but that's to help keep our students safe. And I want to say that I think it's a great idea for you to pursue the governor's directive to ask and require teachers and staff to either be vaccinated or to be regularly tested in order to keep our students safe. My friend Jim, like me, was a proud American and a free one, and he elected not to get the vaccine. Jim didn't, however, come to school to expose our kids to his unvaccinated status or potentially to COVID. I wrote Jim's obituary about 3 weeks ago. He died of COVID. That was his right. He didn't have the right to bring that into our school. Our kids do not have the right to choose not to come to school. The law requires them to come to school. Our kids do not get paid to come to school. Our teachers and staff get paid and have the right to decide whether they're going to come to school. They should be vaccinated or they should be tested to keep our children safe. It is not reasonable for teachers and staff to put their personal interests ahead of the safety of our kids. Please keep our children safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Beth Curtis, and then Brigitte DePole. Is Brigitte here? Okay, terrific.
Hi, my name is Beth Curtis. I'm a 22-year resident of Truckee. I have 2 children who grew up here and went to the Truckee Public Schools, kindergarten through 12th grade. I'm an education and employment law attorney, and I have a contract with the California Teachers Association. So most of the time, I'm sending letters to the district, like one that I sent to Joan earlier this week, telling the district what I think they did wrong and why I disagree with them. But I will be the first person to thank this board for everything that they have done and to recognize that none of these board members got elected because they wanted to deal with a 100-year pandemic and take our district through it. So I want to thank all of them for sticking with the district, sitting tight in their seats, getting us through quarantine and doing everything that they've done. And I want to thank them for the great education that my daughters got in this district. They took AP classes, they took community college courses, they got all the tools they needed to be successful. So thank you for all of that. I also want to correct some facts that when I listened to the last board meeting, I think were incorrect or misunderstood. So as Kim said earlier, the district is implementing a California Department of Public Health order from August 11th, 2021 that required implementation by October 15th. It's not a choice. It doesn't say may, it says shall. The district must implement it, but the order is not a vaccine mandate. It's vaccinate or test, weekly testing. And any teacher who doesn't want to test and who goes through a dismissal process has due process. They will have a hearing in front of an administrative law judge. I'm representing 2 teachers and other districts who are going through that process right now. They will get to make their arguments to that judge. There is due process. In addition, there's a difference between discriminating based on religion and one's right to a reasonable accommodation for religious beliefs. It's not as simple as just reading Title VII to the board. There are regulations to the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, which is California's version of Title VII, to talk about what's reasonable and what's not. And finally, I want to express my deep concern with how some people expressed themselves last week. Most people were here, were sincere, expressed their beliefs cordially. That's great. But there was one person who had his NRA hat and stood up and said, "People hang for this SH blank blank, y'all." I don't appreciate my publicly elected board members being threatened, impliedly threatened. The First Amendment does not protect what we call fighting words. The United States Supreme Court has recognized that fighting words are those which incite an immediate breach of the peace. So let's keep it civil. We owe that to ourselves and to our elected board members. And under the Brown Act, the board can clear the room and has the right to do that if people do not remain civil. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Brigitta. And then next is David Manahan. David Manahan, you're next.
Thank you. My name is Bridget, and once again, I just wanted to say it's hard for me because I know that there was a comment made about some young men who were vandals, and it's very possible they were part of the group. I think it's always hard that when individuals are concerned about something and they're in the minority of the group, that's very, very difficult for us to get up because we're alone in a lot of ways. And I believe that some of this is so much anger and passion that comes out. Regardless of what group it is, it's an attempt to be heard. Does it make it right? No, it doesn't. But I think the point isn't to say that we're not part of community because there isn't good science behind it. But we also know that there's always science on both sides. And yes, while the vaccine may be very beneficial to very many people, there are some that we do know it poses a risk for. And there are people, just like I feel bad for the gentleman whose friend died because he chose not to get the vaccine. There are also people who will die from getting it, even though it is rare. And so I just need you to consider that. My daughter, when she was born, had literally green, slimy poop with red blood streaks in it. I was not about to. At that time, I had nothing to do with being for or against vaccines. It was simply something where I had to choose at that time, could her system take that? And so I have had to be very cautious with her. And I do my best for the community, okay? This isn't just about me and I want my individual rights. That's not what it's about. It's about me doing my best to protect my parents who are elderly, to protect my child, to protect others. If she is sick, or I think she is sick, I keep her home, okay? And I want people to know it's very important because when you're on the opposing side like we are, we feel very alone. And this is a big fight. And it's not because I don't care about people who have died and choose to get the vaccine, because most people would be okay with that. I know that. My husband has been vaccinated. This is simply recognizing that there are people out there who are very concerned. And if it gets to the point, even if the mandate is not in place where it becomes that point, I will have to pull my child out of school because it is not an option. So I just ask you also to respect. It's not about agreeing, it's about listening to us. Thank you again.
Thank you. And then, so David Manahan, and then Sylvia. Yeah, okay, yes. Yep, yep.
Hello, I'm David Manahan. I'm the principal at CELS. First, a big thank you, Galen, Carmen, Kim, Kirsten, Dee Dee, Chris, but also Lupita, Ed, Val, Todd, Joan, Jeff. I know next door is Jenny and Kelly and a few others. And you all put in a lot of effort, and I see it. We're located on the same campus, and so thank you for really working hard to keep the community of students, staff, families safe. Really appreciate that. While I understand the passion that people feel for their individual choices and rights, I'm frustrated and saddened by the lack of passion for others in rights and choices. So it feels there's this disconnect between many of you who believe that don't understand that if you exercise your freedom to not wear masks, not get vaccinated, to make things less safe, you are thus taking away the choices and the individual rights and freedoms that you hold so dear from others in this community. They then don't get that option. Their kids still come to school and still have to face the consequences of you making choices to make things less safe. And that's a problem for us educational leaders. We're making decisions on safety not for our individual personhood, for our kids. We're making decisions for hundreds or perhaps thousands of kids, for hundreds and perhaps thousands of families and relatives. Those are the people we're making decisions for about safety. We don't have the luxury to say what I want. I can't make a decision on safety for all of your kids and pretend I don't have that impact. It's a huge impact. And the teachers feel similarly. Their worst fear is to think of somebody getting sick in their classroom that they know and then bringing it home and infecting their family. And these things happen. And it's devastating. And it's more devastating for them to then see so many angry that they have to wear a mask, that they have to be part of a social contract that we all agree to as part of a community to protect those individuals who are unable to protect themselves. We have kids at our school that will die if they get COVID. It's not a question of whether an if or a maybe. They already are vulnerable. And that so many are arguing so hard to make it less safe for them, that's really hard to take. And it's really sad.
Thank you, David. So because we're at our 30 minutes, I will go ahead and let Sylvia make her comments, and then that will end this 30-minute period. We will reopen public comment after the board does its business this evening. So, Sylvia?
Thank you, members, for your service to our community. I am here tonight to ask you to take the right decision according to what has been shared with you tonight and in previous days. In our small community, everyone knows you. People will point at you, either saying that's the evil one who is helping to destroy our children, our community, our health, or freedom. Or you will be approached and you will hear, thank you for doing what is right, for standing up for our children, for our schools, for our community. Our children deserve their God-given freedom. Please give it to them. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. Okay. So I'll keep these folks who have requested to make public comment, and like I said, we'll open it up after the meeting. So let's move on for now. So we are moving on, let's see, so can you take that conversation outside, please? Superintendent's report. Superintendent Geisels?
Thank you, President Zurich. I just have a few updates today that are really the focus of what we do and our students. So I wanted to do some shout outs to our schools and our students. The first one being North Tahoe High School. I want to acknowledge the boys and girls soccer team and the boys cross country team. They have all received state championship designation, so applause for that. Ms. Mitchell also reports that we've had our first indoor band concert at North Tahoe High School. At Truckee High, congratulations to the girls volleyball team. They are also state champions. Additionally, Truckee High reports that the overall grade point average in all grades is 3.2, which is at Truckee High. So congratulations to Truckee High. In the STEP program, the Truckee preschool and STEP programs have been able to take our preschoolers and toddlers to have enrichment time at the Kids Zone. So we want to thank the Kids Zone and all of their funding partners for that help and that support. So thank you for that. At Sierra High School, I am pleased to announce that the first quarter fall 2021 credits or earned per student was the highest, or was higher than any of the last 8 years, according to Mr. Woolman. So there. Our seniors are also back on track at Sierra High, and they've grown socially, emotionally, and beyond expectations. At Alder Creek, 24 out of 29 students who were in reading intervention during the first trimester have shown growth in the first trimester reading assessment, for a total of 83% of our students improving their reading at Alder Creek. So shout out to both Sierra and Alder Creek. At Tahoe Lake, they had their first walkathon, a successful walkathon, and Ms. Fochek reports that it was a successful end of the first trimester, that they were able to safely gather their community together, which is a cause for celebration on its own. So a shout out to Tahoe Lake. At Glenshire, which I had the pleasure of visiting last week, they have second graders who have taken a leadership role in keeping Glenshire clean and beautiful. Thanks to their volunteer work, and they have implemented the Glenshire compost, and it has gone smoothly. Mrs. Kramer and Mrs. Cuddle state that the second grader teams have a spirit of service and that they volunteer their lunchtime and lunch recess every day to help clean up. So shout out to Glenshire. And I just wanted to let you know that after the December break, we would like to bring back some school showcases of our schools, so we can have our students and our principals come and share what they've been doing and the great work that they've been doing throughout this entire year. So thank you for listening to my update.
Thank you. Great things going on.
Yes.
Okay. And then we have 2 grants, as well as a donation from our ever generous community. The first grant is the Martis Camp Community Foundation for Special Friends.
Yes, I'd like to acknowledge this wonderful grant from Martis Camp Foundation for Special Friends. The mission of Martis Camp Community Foundation is to elevate the quality of life in greater Truckee community. They make a positive impact in the areas of education, youth development, and recreation. This grant is made in order to increase the Special Friends hours to support social emotional needs of our students at Glenshire Elementary, and the grant cost is $10,000.
Wow. Questions? I'll note that we no longer have public in the room, so I won't ask for public comment. Would someone like to make a motion on this?
As always with our grants, I always totally want to make sure that they know we appreciate it 100%. And I'll make a motion to accept the grant from Martis Camp Community Foundation for Special Friends.
With thanks, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. And next we have, as an information item, I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier, the Educator Effectiveness Grant Expenditure Plan.
So Ms. Simpson's going to briefly review the Educator Effectiveness Grant. We just found out about this grant on October 22nd, and there are many strings attached to this. The grant's focus is providing professional development for both classified and certificated staff. So we have 4 big buckets we'd like to talk about at the focus of the grant. You have the grant proposal in front of you, and this is the rule is that we would do 2 presentations tonight on November 17th, and then again with the final presentation on December 15th. So Ms. Simpson, if you want to walk through the process.
Thank you very much. Yes, so the Educator Effectiveness Grant, as Superintendent Geisel said, for certificated and classified staff, and certificated extends also to our school principals and assistant principals as well. So that's a nice piece to this. A couple of key facts and details. We did receive notice that these funds were coming our way on October 22nd. It is focused on professional learning and promotes a higher access to professional development and increasing effectiveness. And our funding, we're set to get approximately $1.5 million, which we can use over the course of 3 years. Excuse me. And, oops, did I skip? Oh, here we go. As I said, $1.5 million. We do have a quick turnaround on this this grant. The due date has to be turned in by December 30th. Or approved prior to December 30th. And so we are presenting it tonight as a draft, and look forward to you providing your comments and questions in between so that we can then make whatever changes and answer any questions that you have prior to the next board meeting. Hold on one second. Sorry. And there's several big buckets that we went through a process with TTEA and also with our school during our leadership meeting. We had our instructional coaches part of that meeting as well, and also got feedback from other educators in our school district. So the big buckets fall under coaching and mentoring for beginning teachers, social emotional support, positive school climate, early education. You'll see that there's also some other categories when you look at the grant. They very much overlap. You'll see some other literacy and ethnic studies is in there. And so we just tried to help, when we went through the process, try to make it a little bit more succinct so that we could get some better input to see what kinds of ideas that folks had out there. So our school community input, as mentioned, our leadership team, our TTEA membership, our instructional coaches, also Cindy Maciel, who is in charge of our early childhood education, has had a chance to take a look at this and give us feedback on the early childhood education component, which I'm really excited about. We all know that funding for that type of program is hard to come by, and so she's very excited about that. Also, of course, our cabinet has provided feedback as well. So this is the official language from the CDE. I'm not going to read it all through, but it is actually beginning teacher or administrator induction, which is very nice. So you'll have a chance to read through that in the slides that you have. Oops, sorry. The actions that you'll see under the draft plan that you have in front of you one big piece is to make sure that we are managing, implementing, facilitating, and completing these grant actions. We want to make sure that whatever we plan for, we're following through and we're measuring the effectiveness. You can see just support to improve a beginning teacher's instructional efficacy. It could be mentor, our TTUSD mentor teachers. It could be through BITSA, which is the beginning teacher support that is required. Also, a piece in there is looking at how do we implement our universal TK, which will be coming down soon. You'll get to hear about that in the months to come. And how do we provide support for our staff for that? So I'm not going to go through every one of these. Thanks, Lupita. You'll get a chance, as I said, to read that. These 2 buckets I put together on one slide because they so much overlap.
social emotional learning, and our positive school climate. Again, you're welcome to read the CDE description there. You'll see training around implicit bias, multi-tiered PBIS, positive behavior intervention systems, preventing discrimination, harassment, trauma-informed practices. So all these areas that we can address through these funds. Under this, again, I combined the actions because it was really hard to try to figure out which bucket these actually fell into. You can see one of the big pieces up there is coordinating and implementing the support for effective teaching in the area of social emotional learning, and making sure that as we are providing trauma-informed training, how does that translate into the classroom? What does that look like? How do we know that our teachers are effectively delivering those types of strategies so that the students are fully benefiting? So it's really about, like, how do we make sure that what we're learning is getting all the way to the students? Let's see. We're also looking at doing a needs assessment. So part of this would be having district folks that want to come together and participate and see what are our needs across the district and how do we make sure that we're addressing those as a district-wide system, as well as at the site level. One of the things that you will see throughout all the different actions is you'll see down on the bottom extra duty. So extra duty and may be offered to staff to help compensate them for any extra time. Also, we'll be looking at adding some other different language, like maybe conference registration was something that somebody had suggested to add in there. Of course, release time. So you'll see a few of those changes that came after you received these, and you'll see that on the next version. Click. There we go. The last one, early childhood education, really short little description there. Again, certificated and classified staff. This funding will really help us to sustain our current K-Ready program, which is our program right now that's targeted for our EL and our SED families prior to them coming into our TK and K. And I'm just excited to say that this is in partnership with Sierra Community House and Kids Zone and also Tahoe Truckee Reads. And actually, the library is a little bit part of this one too. So we're really proud of that partnership and excited about having these funds to be able to sustain this and build on it. And then the other part here that I also want to share with you is that there's current articulation happening already between our community and district preschool and our TK and K teachers. These funds will actually allow us to enhance and expand that articulation, particularly as we are developing our universal TK. This just is going to give us a great opportunity. And then the last thing that I want to say about this too is our language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling. That is the professional learning that our elementary teachers are going through, called Letters. We're looking to make sure that we can offer that to our classified and certificated staff at the early childhood education level. And so there's a couple of, they can do the official one, or we have a modified version that we're rolling out with our classified staff. So we'll be able to give them that choice. And then just a few things, quick turnaround. We went through a process, got feedback. We're bringing it to you and look forward to getting your input and question. And
if I can add,
yes.
Ms. Simpson and board, you have the hard copy in front of you, and this is the first time I know you're seeing it. So what we're hoping that you'll do is look at the slide presentation, and then as homework, read through it, and then we have the board questions that Lupita sends out, that you can put your questions and then we can address them. And when we come back on December 15th with the final presentation, that we would be able to revise that and give that to you and go from there. So just wanted you to know that.
Thank you, Superintendent Geisels. Thank you for the presentation. And thank you for all of our staff for reacting and acting so quickly on this opportunity that we have, but that has a very short reaction time. So thank you. Yeah. And then next we have a donation, and that is from the Glenshire Elementary Parent-Teacher Organization for the Lexia Reading Language Arts Program.
Yes, I'm really excited to be presenting this to you. Lexia Reading Corps is a program that supports our teachers in giving differentiated literacy instruction to meet the needs of the students where they're at. And it addresses students in grades pre-K to 5. And it's an online program. It's research-based. And what's been really great about this is that the PTO has been able to assist with that implementation at Glenshire. So the PTO at Glenshire, thank you very much for a $5,950 donation towards the Lexia reading program.
Board questions? Again, no public. Would someone like to make a motion?
I will thank the Glenshire PTO and make a motion to approve the donation for Lexia.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oops, I'm sorry. Aye.
Aye.
That was 5-0. Sorry. I was a little too quick there. Okay, so next we have a resolution recognizing Special Education Day and recognizing Special Educator Appreciation. How appropriate is that?
Mr. Santos?
Yes, thank you. So December 2nd is the actual day of the National Recognized Special Education Staff and Special Education Support. The week, December 2nd through 6th, is the week that we recognize our individuals that are supporting our students with special needs. Big thanks to all of our special ed staff, from our classified instructional assistants to our teachers, to support school psychologists, other DIS providers like our speech pathologists, occupational therapists, and vision. And also for those from start to finish, our site secretaries as well as our bus drivers that help support our students with special needs as well. But I do want to recognize all of our awesome staff. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
It's a very important designation. That was my very first teaching job, was special ed.
Any questions from the board? Would anyone like to move this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 10.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Yes, so much appreciation to our special education folks.
Over the top.
Very special human beings. Next, we already did our consent agenda. So we move to business services, and we get to hear our annual debt report. And I didn't ask you any questions, Todd, but I went over this very closely, so.
That's good. Thank you. So this is a requirement that we have a debt policy, and in that debt policy, board policy 3470, we're required to provide an annual report to the board, which includes information on any debt that the district's issued, including general obligation bonds, a market update, any refinancing opportunities that may be out there, and just kind of an overall analysis of how we're doing debt-wise. And this is mostly related to general obligation bonds, but also includes other debt that the district has on its books as well. So everyone should have a copy. Unfortunately, I don't have it up on the screen here, but just wanted to go over some of the highlights of this report. The first page shows all of the general obligation bonds that we still have that are still open and active within the district, so it includes debt back to 1999 with the previous bond measure that the district had. And overall, the overall issuance amounts originally with all of the bond measures that we have is $263,669,000. Of that, the principal outstanding is $168,404,000, which means the taxpayers within the district have paid off about $100 million worth of that debt that's been issued since 1999. Of that, approximately $145.8 million is related to measures E and U. That's the remaining principal balance on that. So the bulk of the remaining balance really is related to the most recent bond measures that we had, measure E and U. And there's still a little bit left over from the 99. In addition, also shows the remaining balance of our certificates of participation, which were issued in 2019. Original issuance amount was $40 million. That's the par, that's the payback amount. Of that, there's still $38.2 million that's outstanding in that debt. Kind of moving on to the next page, we're looking at tax rates. The overall tax rates, and remember our district for debt purposes is divided into two sections. Essentially, it's the Lakeside and the Truckee side. We call them School Facilities Improvement District Number 1, which is the Truckee area and includes all the Truckee schools, and then SFID Number 2, which is the Lake area. That's what Measure E is within, and then SFID number one is what Measure U is within. So of that, the overall tax rate, which is assessed on properties per $100,000 of assessed value, that's the amount that the taxpayer has to pay back for the debt service on these general obligation bonds. For SFID number 1, it's $50.18 per $100,000 of assessed value. For SFID D number 2, it is $41.78 per $100,000. And just to give you a breakdown too of Measure E and U's contribution to that, Measure U accounts for approximately $34.50 per $100,000 of assessed value. Measure E accounts for $23.34 per $100,000. And just to also remind you that when we went out for Measure E and U, what we promised, we had kind of a not to exceed amount on the tax rate that we promised voters. The amount that we promised voters we would not exceed was $48.25 on per $100,000 of assessed value of Measure U. So we're at $34.50, so that's pretty good. And then Measure E, we promised voters we would not exceed $29.75. And as I stated before, we're at $23.34. So we're beating both of those promises, and that continues because our assessed value continues to grow above what we've projected. So looking at our projected tax rates moving forward, we're using conservative approaches and looking at our projection for the tax rate based on an assessed value growth of about 3.25% per year, which is kind of aligned with what we do in our budget as well. And looking at the charts here for projected tax rates, you'll see that we're at our highest points for the tax rates through 2025, and then it reduces on SFID number 1 down to just a little bit over $40 per $100,000 of assessed value. And then in 2035, the remaining debt balance decreases again and goes down to the low 20s per $100,000 of assessed value. And then at 2040 through 2047, which is the remaining balance, it goes down to a very minimal amount that taxpayers will be responsible for annually on debt service. SFID number 2 kind of shows the same trends. Through 2026, we have our highest amount of tax rate, and then it lowers again as debt is retired, and then continues to go down through 2031 through 2041. And then again, the last final years are a very small amount for taxpayers to have to pay off through 2047. Looking at our bonding capacity, that's just the amount of debt that the district can issue. It's based on our assessed value, and what the statutes say is that we could issue up to 2.5% in debt of our total assessed value in the district. So our bonding capacity is just over almost $630 million. That's what we could issue if voters approved. You subtract out our outstanding principal that we have, and our available bonding capacity is just under $462 million that we could issue. So moving on to credit ratings, I don't know if you recall, but not too long ago, we actually had an increase in our credit ratings for general obligation bonds up to, with Moody's, it was an increase to the AA1 rating, and then for Standard & Poor's, we went up to a AA rating. And then the COP's current rating is a AA minus for Standard & Poor's, and that's pretty common for certificates of participation to have a little bit less of a credit rating than general obligation bonds, and that's probably because it's tied to the district's general fund. But overall, either way you look at it, we're at a high-grade bond rating, which is why we've done so well when we went out for sale. And then moving forward with U.S. Treasury rates, continues to be volatile. We saw some upticks in the Treasury rates at the end of the year. And one thing I forgot to mention too, this is pretty much through June 30th. Right now, I think the 10-year notes are sitting at around 1.54%. There's expectation that there'll be a rate increase. It hasn't happened yet, just as it hasn't happened over the last couple years. But still a good market out for issuing debt. And then finally, refunding opportunities. Our financial advisors, Keegan, are always looking for opportunities in which we could refinance our existing debt, meaning a lower tax payback for our taxpayers. And every time there's an opportunity, they kind of let us know, and we have to weigh whether it's worth going out and doing a refinance for, a certain amount savings of taxpayers, because there is a cost to it too, although the cost will go through the refinancing process, but at the same time, there is a long process to refinancing any debt, so we have to kind of weigh that. And as those opportunities come up, I will check in with you and see if we're interested in doing it. And that's about it. Is there any questions at all?
Questions, Galen?
Yeah, on the refunding opportunities, I get that it's a lot of work. The cost, where does that, who pays that? Does it come out of general fund?
No, the cost will come out of the refinancing. So it'll be paid for, the cost of issuance will actually, and the financial advisor and the attorneys and everything will come out of the actual refinancing. So they'll structure it in a way that it's going to save the taxpayers money and it's paid for within itself. But I think you always have to look at whether it's justified to go through that process, and people are making money off of it too. So take that into account.
So last question, it doesn't look like interest rates are going to go down. So how are you feeling about taking advantage of this right now?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be talking to Keegan about, because Chris Hyatt with Keegan has proposed a couple of refinancings, and I think it's time to actually seriously look at that and see how much overall we can save. And even if as long as it's meeting those kind of minimum industry thresholds, I think it's a good idea to move forward. It depends on the timing and whether the interest rates still maintain at the low levels that they are right now by the time you actually go out and sell it. So, but I will check in with them and see what they would recommend.
Yeah, thanks, Gillen, for asking that. In fact, if this advanced refunding law changes, then we have some more opportunities, right, Todd? So that would actually present us with some additional opportunity for savings. So, and you're right, the costs are incorporated into the effective interest rate that you're left with when you refund. Other questions? Thank you, Todd. So this was information only, is that correct? We don't have to take any action on this? Okay, great. Just to keep things moving, so Jeff, are there folks who still want to make public comments? So if you'll ask people to start coming in, and we'll do that before comments of board members, is that okay with you guys? Yeah. So, you have tags still? Or there's still any tags? Yeah, I have them. I still have them, yeah. And they're in the same order I had them. So let's see the debt, and then board policies. I didn't see anything in any homework. Is that correct? So we can move those forward to the consent agenda. Is that okay, you guys?
And then for future reference, we will come back with a presentation about universal TK and what we have to do for next steps and how it impacts the district. Todd and Val and myself and Jeff, actually, and Joan, it's a community effort. So we'll come back and give you an informational presentation.
Okay, so if anyone is in the gym who's listening, who still want to make public comments, if you please come back to the boardroom. We've finished with the preponderance of the board business, so it'd be great if we could facilitate that.
We have Selena here, we have Gigi, and this is Matt.
Okay. So no Gabe. What about Margie? No. Okay.
And Gigi.
Mick. And Jennifer, Gigi. Okay.
Wants to go, and then we have one more that's.
Okay. Okay. Terrific. So Mick, do you want to start? Do you want to start?
So I'm a little nervous, so we can start the clock, but you know what, I appreciate how you opened up with some communication. I felt like, I guess it was last week I was here and I didn't know what was going on and but I've done a little research. First off, your comment about the bathroom. I walked into that bathroom last week and it was just toilet paper. It was just a toilet paper job. Somebody had written no vax with toilet paper on the ground and they had thrown some wet wadded toilet papers on the walls. I checked with the janitor and he said that's all it was. I cleaned it up. I just want to make sure we don't mischaracterize this crowd. We certainly see you as neighbors. Some of you are my clients. I've worked with you and have known you since you were little kids almost. There's something going on in this country, something really different, and it's far bigger than what's going on here in this school board. And if you don't see that, you should not be on the school board. You shouldn't be in government if you don't see something much bigger going on in this country. How do I combat a passionate man who stands there and says people are dying? Of course, everybody's very concerned about that. We all locked down for 2 weeks. Let's stop the curve. But it just kept going and going and going. And now you want to vax, and it's moving this way. You say it's not at this point now, but it's moving this way. They're going to require all of us to be vaxxed. Little kids, and this stuff's experimental. Little kids don't die from this. There's maybe 100 kids under 11 in America that have died from COVID. The vast majority, 90% of them, have had serious complications going into it. So we have some serious concerns about this vaccine. Stated science for decades and decades and decades has been, you get a disease, you have the antibodies, you're pretty good to go. And there are lots of studies out there, very credible studies, that say people who have had the disease are better off than people who get vaxxed. Are you aware of that? Are you not aware of that? You need to be aware of that because you're making decisions here. You need to be aware of that. Have you talked to anybody, with my 48 seconds left, have you talked to anybody from Eastern Europe who went through communist countries, who lived under that stuff? I've talked to several of them over the last 2 years, and they say, don't you see what's going on? Oh, it's incredible what's happening in America. There's something insidious going on here. And if you don't stand, that's what we're asking you to do. We're asking you to see it, to stand up against it and say no. Because it's incremental, it's insidious, and it's going the wrong way. And God bless you guys. Oh, by the way, I have a copy of that letter from the CDC that says they have no record of anybody who contracted COVID-19, did not have the vaccine, was reinfected after they recovered.
Okay, Mick, thank you. Your time is up. Thank you so much.
I'll leave it with you. How about that?
So next, Margie. So Joan said you didn't want to talk, but you do want to speak. Okay, please go ahead. And then I have Luke Sorter. Is Luke Sorter? Okay, terrific. And then we'll do Gigi. And am I missing anyone who hasn't spoken yet? Okay. Thank you, Margie.
I'm Margie C. Hutter. My parents immigrated here from Mexico City, and my dad's very patriotic. My mom held our home together with her faith. Both of them have strong faith, and my dad at 93 and my mom at 86 are not vaccinated because of their faith. Just wanted to share that with you because if you want to know where I get it from. I did turn in my letter of religious exemption before school started, and it was not granted or denied. And so I'm asking tonight that it be granted. God allowed me to have COVID, and so now I have a strong built-in protection plan. So why test? Why test and get tested every week with a chemical that I'm not sure of when I know what the results are going to be. My reasonable accommodation was mine, that I would submit to you the antibodies test, and it was denied. This right here is the Word of God, and it's my authority. So when I made a conscientious choice to give my life to Christ, this is where I get all my decisions. I base all my decisions on the Holy Bible. It is my moral compass to make all my decisions. I tried masking. I tried doing that. It just didn't feel right to me. And in Corinthians, it says, whosoever turns to the Lord has this veil removed to reflect his glorious image. And it goes on to say, the Lord is the Spirit, and wherever the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. We are not to be veiled. I am not to be masked. In Moses' time, the veil was not just a face covering. It covered truth and it covered understanding. In James 4:17, it says, whosoever does the right thing and does know what's right and fails to do it, is sin for him. So it also says that eating meat might be right for you. It's not right for me. So if I partake in eating meat, guess what? I'm sinning because I'm going against my belief. If the government forces me to do anything to my body that I don't want to do, that in itself is a definition of tyranny.
Thank you, Margie. Luke?
Hi, my name's Luke Sorter. I don't know if any of you guys remember me. I was the ASB president in 2020. I just came up here to speak about Margie and how she's helped many, many students throughout the years. She was my Christian Crossroads leader for 4 years, and she's almost been like a second mom. She's helped me through many struggles, and she's been there. She's taught me who I am today. She's been a guiding factor in what I believe and who I want to be as a man. I'm coming here just to, thank you guys as well for being here and listening to us. But as part of the student body or past student body, there are many kids here that are still in school that were here today to support Margie and how they have affected, or she has affected their life and their growth and maturing in the Christian faith. So, thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Gigi?
Hi. Yeah, that's fine. I completely changed my topic just based on some of the things that I heard tonight. And I am really saddened by the people who really think that us who believe in our bodily integrity and believe that we have an innate immune system that God has given us, for people who have had COVID and there's no documentation to see that we can spread it if we've had it. I've had it. My husband's had it. My 90-year-old dad has had it, who is, by the way, he grew up in Austria during World War II and escaped the drafting of the Hitler Youth. I don't think you understand what that man went through and what he lived through, and we're looking at it right now. So that's my testimony, and that's where I come from. I have a very deep, I don't want to say fear, because I do have faith in my Lord and Savior. But it just saddens me that we are painted to be these people that just want to hurt people and kill people. That's crazy. I don't know anyone who has died of COVID. I know people who've gotten sick. I have 3 friends who've died of the vaccine. I went to a funeral in Reno. I have a woman that I love dearly in Australia that suffered for 7 weeks with Guillain-Barré before dying. And there was another man in Oregon who I couldn't go to his funeral at the time. He died 3 days after his second vaccination. These are all healthy people. You know, and no one's talking about what we do to our bodies, you know, to be healthy. We eat right. We exercise. We do the things that are right to our bodies. We choose what we ingest. If you want to go and get drunk at Bar of America every night, that's your choice. You know, but if I feel and if I know and I have the information to make a decision about what I put into my body or what I do to my body, that's my choice. And I can take the government on my shoulders. If I'm sick, I stay home. Or if I really have to go out, then I can choose to put a mask on if I feel like I'm a detriment to people. But for people who are completely healthy, to have to test, to have to, you know, to be maybe thwarted with a vaccine down the road. I mean, you said that, Kim, that teachers and students or teachers do not need to be vaccinated by July 2022. I think that the governor said that, and you're following him. He has lost a lot of credibility in my. Okay,
Thank you,
I was
Gigi.
going to just
Thank you.
look into what he did with the prison guards.
So I believe
versus
that's all of the public comment that we had. Oh, I'm sorry, what is your name? I'm Jordan. Oh, Jordan, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't think you were still here. Please go ahead.
Hello, testing. Good evening. Thank you for making this process available, and thank you for hearing the concerns of our community with an open and unbiased perspective. I am a Truckee High alumni, class of 1997. My parents moved my brother and I to the Truckee community in 1989. I attended 4th grade in this building. Truckee has always felt like home to me, and the amount of community support has always amazed me. The Truckee I remember always had a strong sense of community. We would come together to support each other and struggling families. We would embrace each other despite their beliefs and quirky differences. Those quirky differences and beliefs that gave our community a rich and supportive culture. It was our ability to focus on what we have in common that provided this sense of community. The Truckee I see today doesn't seem to honor this philosophy. Quite the opposite, really. The Truckee I see today is an excluding, self-righteous, self-serving, money-hungry machine, intolerant of any opinion, perspective, belief, or scientific process that opposes the status quo. I've had to watch community members get forced out of their homes and jobs with no reasonable or justifiable excuse other than greed. That is what this vaccine mandate is about, despite what propaganda and one-sided science may lead you to believe. You are a public organization, and you have all taken an oath to represent this community and its best interests. Adopting these mandates does not represent this community or its best interests. It furthers self-serving economic interests while increasing the division of Americans. Americans who have made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure we are guaranteed the right to practice our beliefs without fear of discrimination or persecution. If you adopt these mandates, you are consciously choosing to shun Americans with a different set of beliefs and morals. You are consciously defecating on the graves of the millions who have died protecting our rights, while opening the floodgates to a future of further erosion of our civil liberties. You have the power to reunite the citizens of this community and in turn this great country. Medicine should be for the sick, not for the healthy. Everyone we know will die someday, and it will be sad and tragic regardless of how it happens and when it happens. We must rise above the fear and return to a place of non-discriminatory compassion. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jordan. So I believe that's all the folks who want to make public comments. Sometimes a board member will make a comment. Galen, did you have anything you wanted to say? Okay, thank you.
I'd like to talk about COVID-19 and TTUSD.
So you're not, never mind, go ahead, sorry. Go ahead, please, please.
Okay. Tahoe Truckee Unified School District has reported 125 positive cases this school year. On the dashboard, if you would like to look at that. That would be total days from school start until the most recent update, 78 calendar days. So that includes the weekdays. Most of the cases, because we trace all these cases, were infected out of the school system, 98% of them. We've had only a few cases where a student or a employee contacted this disease from somebody on the campus. These infected students got infected at home or at other activities after school. So what do these numbers mean? I mean, I like numbers, but I like them to mean something. So if I take the 125 positive cases and divide it by 78 days, that gets to some numbers that we can compare to other places. That's 1.6 cases per day from our group of 4,100 students and about 600 adult staff. Now, in order to compare that, I need to normalize it to the cases per 100,000, even though we don't have anywhere near 100,000 we're talking about, it can still be normalized. And so when I normalize that, that comes out to 34 cases per day that we get reported to us per 100,000 people. 34. Now, some of these may not have actually come into the class. They're just going to school, and they could have been detected at home before they got here, and it gets reported, and we know what it is. So there's a mixture of stuff here. The state of California, for comparison, the state of California has an average daily new case rate per 100,000 people of 15. So we have been experiencing 34 per day, whereas the average in the state of California is 15. Now, what does that mean? I think it means that school-aged children are catching COVID-19 virus at a much higher rate than the average population. Now, that's shocking. It's shocking. Why is that happening? I mean, California average was for all of the age groups in California. Our 34 per 100,000 is just for our student body and the 600 adults who work here. Those who argue that children are less susceptible need to think about this data. Almost, as I said earlier, most of these cases were infected out of the school system. That means our protocols that we've been following here in Tahoe Truckee Unified School District are effective. The cleaning, the social distancing, the staff vaccinations and testing, and yes, the masks are doing their job. I mean, that's a proud thing we can be, that our students are not coming to school and getting infected. I think the state is right on target with their mandates in an effort to protect the public and keep our children in the classroom. That's my number analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Galen. Anyone else who would like to speak? We're going to move on to board comments now anyway. So, Kirsten? No, we can. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, please do. And we always respond. Good night, Margie. Yeah, lots of times we'll respond to emails.
Okay.
Yeah.
I email every board meeting and I didn't get anything back, so I wasn't expecting it. I don't know if that's part of the process or not.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Kirsten, anything that you would like to say for board comments or anything? Okay. Chris?
Thank you guys again.
Thank you, Luke.
I just wanted to report out that I did participate in the calendar committee meeting that Joan has been facilitating, so we can get the school year calendars in front of the board. So I think that's my main involvement. And I just wanted to share that regarding today in our meeting, just something that one of the speakers said that just really stuck with me, and it was not necessarily quoting, but just it's hard to be the minority, and that just really touched me, and I just wanted to acknowledge, I think it was Bridget that said it, I just wanted to acknowledge that because we know it's hard to be, like in this little instance, the minority, and we've all had experiences where our personal beliefs have been the minority in a work circle or a church circle or family even, right? So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I just wanted to thank everyone that came out, everyone that wrote emails. And really, I do want to specifically point out the people that brought the Word of God into a public setting. I just, yay, thank you for doing that, because sometimes that's the population that's the least heard or the least presented in a public forum. And I'm thankful that it was respectful and it was sincere from their perspective. And I don't know if I can say another specific example, but I just want to say whether it's vandalizing a bathroom with paper or a note or whatever, it's still vandalism. If it was in my home and somebody did that because they disagreed with my beliefs or my efforts to work through something, even if it's not breaking glass or whatever, it's still vandalism. So I don't want to scandalize it or whatever the word was that my acquaintance Mick used, but I just want to just be clear. To me, this is my home. This is the home of people that send their 4,000 plus children to our schools that we staff and that we nurture, and it's still vandalism, and I just want that to be heard clearly. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you for that, Chris. I definitely want to just comment on the fact, Kim, that the start off of this meeting was well said, and I appreciate your heartfelt conversation because that's tough. This isn't an easy decision for anybody, and it's not necessarily a decision as much as it is trying to follow the rules and again, keeping our community safe. This was tough. Like, I'm not saying that this was an easy meeting or the last 2 weeks have not been easy, just with the anticipation of last meeting and this meeting. So I really appreciate let's all try to work this out civilly. And not everyone has the same belief, but I think that if we're trying to do the best for all of us, sometimes we have to bend a little. And yet, reference to the other times that things have happened, I have family that's from the East Germany as well, and it's tough, but I think the whole thing is compassion, and what you said, that really, I don't know, I think that's a big part of how we're going to make this through, and I appreciate that. That's about it.
Thanks, Dee Dee. I went to Glenshire last Friday for the coffee meeting with the superintendent, and that was really nice, and thanks to the Glenshire PTO leadership for coffee and treats, and it was really fun to see the kids. 2 little girls in 5th grade stopped by where Carmen's nicely decorated little office and introduced themselves, and that's what this is all about. for me is our kids. So, warms my heart. You're good. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.